and the power of the mind. If you have an interesting subject to talk, welcome.
Thank you, Clara.
Yes. Hello, Kinneri. Hello, Oscar. How are you? We are inviting today Kinneri, Parekh. She lives in Kenya. She's based in Kenya. She's a clinical hypnotherapist, a life coach. She studied psychology and NLP and transpersonal regression. And with all this mix of wisdom, we are going to, to ask her about the mind today and why the mind is so important, why the mind is so powerful. Hello, Ukma. Some more colleagues joining. It's so beautiful to see the support of this beautiful family from all over the globe joining. Yes, I was introducing Kinneri, and today we'll ask her shortly about the mind and how it works, because we know the power of the unconscious mind and how it drives us sometimes. I give the platform to you, and if I think that I don't understand something, I'll stop you and maybe you can share more. Can you put your phone? Now we are speaking about the mind today. Yes, with Kinneri. He's a coach and hypnotherapist, regression therapist, a very dear colleague of mine, and she's an expert about the mind, and she's giving workshops actually in Nairobi about the power of the mind. And today she's going to teach us a little bit about that. Yeah.
Thank you, Clara. Thank you. Perhaps just talking about the mind, maybe I can start with just introducing myself and how I got into this journey and why I believe that the mind is so powerful. So I have gone through my own challenges of health issues, emotional issues, life issues, and to a point where I was almost under depression. And that was actually the breaking point in my life, the turning point. And I was looking for something to understand myself and why things were happening to me the way they were. It took me down the route of understanding through psychology, neuro-linguistic programming, Reiki, and all those motivational stuff and healing stuff, believing in angels, but nothing was really working because I didn't understand myself really. And then when I did neuro-linguistic programming, my focus went into a bit of hypnosis, and I thought, wow, this is where we're touching something which is so sensitive. Maybe there's a key that I need to understand there. And I tried to find out if there's anything that I can learn in this country, and unfortunately there wasn't. And I tried to search on Google, and then one fine day, I guess my prayers were answered, and we found our trainer landing in Nairobi. And to me, I think I found my calling. I healed as I learned, and I learned as I healed. And this was my journey when I found how powerful the mind is, how I resolved emotions, and how I changed my life completely. And so why is the mind so powerful? We know that we are made up of mind, body, and soul. We know the body, we feel the body, we live with the body. We know the soul. Many of us know our spirit, our soul. So what is the mind really? How do we define the mind? So many of us probably equate it to the brain and how the connections to the brain is. But the mind is much more than that. The mind is just an energy all around us. We cannot quantify it. It's not tangible. Mind is just all around us, and our body is in the mind. And what do we know about the mind that is so powerful? We wake up in the morning, We think, we feel, we decide, we analyze, we logic, and then we act on our decisions. That's pretty much our day-to-day part of our life. And we think this is the mind that we use. We behave, but that is only 10% of what we use in our whole life. Have we ever thought about how we breathe, how we let our organs function, how the blood is flowing in our body, how we unconsciously do many things? Do we really think about it? So, what is it that drives our body, our functions? It is that part of us which is even more powerful than that conscious mind that we know. It is the subconscious mind. And believe it or not, it is the more powerful part of us, which actually is 6,000 times greater than the conscious mind.
Wow. Could you tell us a little bit in depth more how the conscious and unconscious is built and subconscious? Mm-hmm.
Yes, for sure. So we only basically know the conscious part of our mind, and that's what we use mostly. But that is what we think about as the brain and the connectivity to our body and how we live. But think about it in a way where maybe with technology we can probably understand in this analogy that the brain is the hardware and the mind is the software. And the software can put the program into the hardware for it to function. So the mind sets off messages to the brain and the brain connects to the body. And that's a better way of understanding it. So, of course, without the software, the hardware cannot work. So it's the mind that is extremely powerful. So how does the mind affect us? So when we are born, basically from the time we are in our mother's womb to the time we are born into this world to the time we are 8 years old, children are primarily living in our subconscious mind. Have you ever wondered how a child is? And if you look into the eyes of a child, how do they look? Sometimes probably empty, vacuum. So where are they probably connected to? They are into their unconscious mind, a library which is completely their own. And why do they do that? Because we have two parts of the mind, the conscious and the unconscious. They have nothing in the conscious mind. They're just building. So where do they live? They live in their unconscious. You've seen them smiling for no reason. You see them looking up for no reason, and you have no idea what they're really doing. So as they build their conscious mind, they live there. And so as they build, they have no filters.
Mm-hmm. Could you please tell us a little bit about this filter that we have between the conscious and the unconscious mind? Freud calls it subconscious. I think you are saying subconscious, and some people calls it unconscious. Yes. And would you like to let us know a little bit the parts and?
So let's talk a little bit about now the subconscious and why it is so important. The subconscious is the 90% of our mind. Literally, it's the iceberg under the water, and it's so much more deeper, 6,000 times more powerful. And like I said, when we're born, we are much more into the unconscious than we are in the conscious mind. So what do we have in the conscious that's so important? It is literally a library or an archive of everything we have experienced across time, across space. And it's an archive that we cannot erase. We just experience it time and again. We also have this very survival instincts sitting in the subconscious as well. It keeps us safe. Imagine that we didn't have how dangerous the world would be. We have to safeguard ourselves, so we need the fight or flight mode. The moment we have that, we know that we can protect ourselves, and that stays in the subconscious. And then every person has this ability or this feeling of fear of loud noises and of falling. Have you ever felt that when you go to a height, when you look down, your heart starts thumping? Even if you bungee jumped for 10 times, You will still go and your heart will beat faster when you see down. And that's just a natural formation in the subconscious mind. And then we have a section called the modern memory, which is everything in this life, a storehouse for every experience, every feeling, every thought that we've had in this life, starting from the time we're in our mother's womb to the time we were born to the time we grow up. And what is it in this library that we store in the subconscious mind? Everything that we think, everything that we experience in our day-to-day life, it goes right down into the subconscious to be stored. And at moments when we are triggered with something, these emotions will drive our behavior because it's
And
6,000 times more powerful.
yeah, can you let us know a little bit how do we process information from our conscious to our subconscious, and how can we? Because you say that there are like, yeah, you said that it's much more powerful, that it's 90% unconscious and then 10% conscious mind, and one works more with the logics and the other one more with the emotions. That the
Yeah.
instincts of survival are there under the unconscious mind, which,
Yeah.
and you also have shared that the filter in between the conscious and the unconscious is built from the age of 0 to 8 or 0 to 7, I don't remember. And you said
Yeah.
that the kid is fully in the unconscious mind, that
Yeah.
he has not yet developed the critical thinking during before 7 years old. You said 8 years old. From the age of 8 years old, then the critical thinking is developed. All this
Yeah.
is what Kinneri has shared now about the mind and the power. And now my question would be, how do we process information from our conscious mind, which is apparently only our 10% of our mind, to our unconscious mind? Hello, Vikalamiti.
Thank you, Clara. So, what happens is, think about it. When a child is born and a child is growing up, for an example, say the child wants a toy and is crying for a toy, and the mother is very busy and she doesn't have the time for the child and just gives the child one slap. What do you think will happen to the child? It will probably be scared, it will probably be sad, it will probably feel shocked. And what happens then? Because children have no understanding of whether whatever is happening to the mom or whatever is happening in the environment, all they do is they perceive through their senses, and it goes literally right into the subconscious. They have no filter to understand why mom gave me a slap. For them, all it is mom gave me a slap. So, with
They don't
whatever
understand.
emotion, they don't
Mhm.
understand. So, whatever emotion they have felt, maybe they've felt the shock. Maybe they've felt the fear that mom is an angry person or mom is somebody to be feared. That emotion goes right into the subconscious. Now,
Mhm.
if the child thinks that my mom is bad or I've done something wrong, that's why my mom gave me a slap, what do you think will happen? The child may think that I am a bad person. And from then on, with that feeling that I am a bad person, they will grow up into this trigger over and over. So experiences in their life will start growing into that I have a fear that somebody may slap me because I am a bad person. That's an example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can you repeat this, because now Wilfred from Kenya, now that he just became a father and is very interested in early childhood
Mhm.
psychology. So basically, Kinneri was explaining that when a child is slapped, for example, putting an example, the child has not yet developed the critical thinking, which is in the conscious mind, and he takes this impact as a, she didn't use the word trauma, but absorbing it without filters, because the baby is not able to think critically, logically, therefore absorbs that as a sponge, as a truth, no? And this could later on be developed as a trauma or a trigger for later events, because he cannot categorize it with his mind, because he's too young to have a conscious mind. It's all in the unconscious. That's
Yes.
why we should not beat, for example, children. We should explain them, no? Even though there is no critical filter or no logical mind. Is that true?
Which is why we say that, you know, children should be taken care of, which is why we say parenting is very hard, because you have to be careful with children. Whatever we do, they are perceiving it in their own way. Remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so from the age of 8, basically, a child starts developing duality, like this is right or this is wrong. I like this, I don't like this. This is black, this is white, this is colored. So they develop that sense. And this is actually uh, influenced by their socio-economic, educational, religion systems, wherever they are brought up culturally, wherever their home is, wherever they are. This influences how they grow up and how they start judging the world around them. And parents play a part, teachers play a part, peers play a part, society will play a part, and they grow up. But remember, already emotions have gone into the child straight without a filter, and they will also play a part. So as the child starts developing the filter, what happens is now we're growing into adults or teenagers. And so every time we think in our day to day lives, we logic, we analyze, we decide, and we act on those decisions. So that becomes our day. At night, when we go to sleep, how does the filter affect us? It takes us into that dream space where emotions are being filtered, experiences are being filtered, and that will have an association with already what has been built up. That is the problem of the power of the mind, how powerful it is, that it will trigger certain things and certain experiences based on how we have felt in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But how do we understand the mind that we have? The mind is just an energy. What is energy? It is a software for the hardware of the brain. Now, the mind has two parts to it, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind is only 10% of what we use in our daily lives. And the rest is the 90%, which is much more powerful. Why do we say it's so powerful? Because it literally runs our body, our system, who we are. And what happens since from the time we are conceived, time we are in the mother's womb, to the time we are born, to the time we grow up till 8 years, what happens to the child? They do not have a filter. They perceive things through their senses, and whatever they feel through it, they take it in directly into the subconscious mind, which is something that we live with, all of us. We have triggers in our lives which create experiences, which is why the mind is so powerful. It associates with what we have experienced and creates our experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we feel through a judgment about somebody or something or circumstance or environment, that emotion that we feel through that judgment will go and sit in our body. And how are our emotions or feelings or judgments created? It's through where we are, the culture, the society, the environment, the education, religious backgrounds that creates our perception of the world that we live in.
Mm-hmm. Very clear. How do you deal with your clients when they come with emotions that they can't deal with emotions? Sometimes they like how is the process of the mind? Because you are saying that emotions lie on the unconscious mind and our critical thinking is in the conscious mind, and sometimes we want to suppress emotions. We might feel sadness and we don't want to feel that way, but this is still regardless there. How do we feel about it? Or if any of the people are watching and would like to to ask questions, feel free, because we trains about mind mainly.
Yeah.
But my question would be, how do we deal with these emotions, or how do you deal with your clients, or how do you explain your clients about how the mind works regarding emotion? Even if we don't want to feel sad, but we still feel sad. Yeah.
Thank you, Clara. So I'll give you an example of, say, for example, a client came to me and maybe they come with that I'm very stressed at work. I can't get along with colleagues. I have a dislike for a particular colleague, but every time I want to get away from that colleague, he or she is in my space and I just can't stand it. So, just through understanding their life from their childhood, whatever has happened, I understand the emotions that they have felt, and they will, of course, have stored it in the part of the body, in the mind as well as the body. So, my technique, when I understand what they are feeling, for example, say they are feeling very powerless or very helpless or very angry, so I use hypnotherapy or regression, whatever is suitable in that moment, to go back to the subconscious mind because that is the root where all this is caused. As I had explained earlier, how we perceive and how we store things. So I go back in through hypnotherapy or regression, and it's a very, very safe therapy. I do not control anybody's mind. Everybody controls theirs. All I do is guide them through into the subconscious mind to the root of where it all started and help them overcome and become aware of their emotions wherever it is stored in the body and help them release it through the techniques that we have learned. And by the
Lovely.
way, once they release that slowly, they are feeling much better. They feel much more at peace, a release, and their body starts resolving.
Mhm. Thank you, Kinja. Thank you. Um, Lovely. So basically, we are learning more about the unconscious mind and how emotions sometimes, well, the unconscious mind represses our negative emotions under the mind, which is in the subconscious and conscious mind, to be able to protect our body, and that our body and our unconscious mind is very linked. That's why Kinneri uses the body and also relaxation techniques to go down to the unconscious mind to be able to free these emotions that are stored in shapes of trauma, sometimes in shapes of triggers from childhood, from when the time that this critical filter between conscious and unconscious was not built, and the kid was young and perceived that shock as as an intention, as something that he could not process with his critical thinking. What else do we have in our unconscious? You've said that it's six. How many times? Six. I don't know how many thousand
6,000
times.
times more powerful.
6,000 times more powerful than the conscious mind, which is lovely. Well, it's
Yeah.
very impressive. Kizito, Jen said, good point, Kinneri, thank you. Okay. So,
So, there's
yeah,
something,
we
Clara,
have
you wanted me
another.
to add?
Mm,
Yeah. So, what I would say is, how do we build associations? Say, for example, if I take something like smoking, because a lot of people are dealing with smoking and they're not able to get off that habit. So, how do we help people who are smoking and need to get off the habit? So, understanding really how the smoking began, for example, say a child saw the father smoking and it associates because the remember the power of the subconscious mind. So he associates a pleasurable feeling through smoking, and the child thinks that there's nothing wrong in smoking, and the child grows up smoking. But now he has, say for example, a girlfriend. The girlfriend says, I hate you smoking and I do not want to get married to you unless you stop smoking. And this man maybe is so totally in love with this girl and says, oh my, I think I can do anything for you, my dear, and tries to stop. Now, what happens is, remember, this conscious mind is only 10%, and that's where we create rules. Rules means I'm going to change something today, but the 90% is more in control. And that is the experience of our life, that I associate happiness and joy with smoking because it gives me a feel good factor. Now, today he changes for his girlfriend, but when he's using a cigarette when he goes to the washroom in the morning and he cannot release anything without a smoke. Or maybe he needs to think something at work and he needs a puff for his mind to start working. But his girlfriend says, "Oh my, you are not going to smoke. What do you think he's going to do?" The 90% will take over because the association is so strong that it's not really easy for them to release or relieve it. Now, this is when they come to me and say that they can, no matter how hard or whatever they have tried, nothing in their life works because smoking is the best thing that they have seen, but they must stop because something in their life is needing that. This goes with weight management as well. We want to lose weight, but no matter what we do, something in our life is just not working. You try fitness, you try gym, you try diets, but nothing works. Why doesn't it work? Because there's an association or an experience of something with the subconscious mind or whatever we are storing there that is not allowing the conscious mind or the will of a person to change it.
Mm-hmm. So you are
So
saying
how
that
powerful it is.
willpower is
Yes.
linked to conscious mind. Willpower is in the conscious mind.
And
Mm-hmm. Okay.
experience is in the unconscious. Of course, there are people who have extremely high willpower and they are able to do something about it. I mean, of course, there are exceptions, but a lot of us also deal with it. And so, no matter what, if there's an emotional trigger, an association of this experience, it's not easy to get over it. And which is why we say how the law of attraction works as well. So, if, say, we have some fear, fear will drive more fear.
Yeah.
Anything in our life will experience more fear because that becomes a powerful emotion in the subconscious mind.
You have a question, and how do we identify that? So someone is asking, how do we identify this pattern? Mm-hmm. Do you
Yes.
want to ask some more concrete questions, the calamity, on how do we identify it? Or yes, do you know what? Yes, how do you
So
think
be
we can
calamity.
identify this association?
Yeah. Be calamity. How would you want to identify an emotion? Is that what you're asking?
Or the association? I think she asked that
Okay.
when you
Yeah.
were the association.
So we go with feeling. Say, for example, we're feeling something. We're feeling happy or we're feeling sad. How do we identify it? How do we feel in our body when we feel something? For example, when I'm happy, how does my body feel? How does my heart feel? How does my stomach feel? Or how does my head feel? It will tell us where we are. For example, now if we're feeling sad or unhappy, how do we feel? Is our body going down? Do we feel like we have no energy? That is how we identify emotions, and that's how you will identify what you're feeling inside. The body will speak.
So basically, through the somatic, Kinneri would know the emotions and would help you release through the body. First,
Yeah.
identifying where is the emotion stored in the body, and then maybe through her techniques, releasing it. No, what
Yeah.
and what techniques would that be? Maybe they want to know a little bit. How would you help dealing with an emotion of sadness or I don't know. Let's say nowadays, no, during this COVID time, there is a lot of anxiety and also a lot of separation between people living in distant relationships and all this. If you are sad about it, how do you deal with that? How do you let go this sadness? Maybe you miss where Kinneri was saying that when we have a deep emotional charge, it's not from now, it's from the past, isn't it, Kinneri? You
It
said
is from the
something about
past.
it's a trigger from your childhood. Therefore, it's just an emotion that it's triggering and it's pulling not only the sadness of today, but the sadness of all other events in your past. Therefore, it's a big wave of sadness because it's not only the sadness of today, but the different episodes of sadness throughout your life.
Correct. So
Mm.
we go through therapy, we identify what the key emotions are, and we go back in time to just release that. We go back to that experience to understand how the person felt, and if there's
Mhm.
anything they were thinking or deciding in that moment, we are then able to help the person overcome it.
Mhm.
Thank you, Melanie. Yes.
Thank you. Before we end, I would like you to let us know a little bit about in Africa and here in Uganda, where my friends, they speak a lot about the ancestral lineage, and that we have like things that maybe sometimes we're the great granddaughter of someone and we look very much alike a great grandfather. Is this stored somewhere in the mind? Is there a part of the mind that is linked to all this information? Yes.
So when I started, I talked about this mind of ours, which is there's a part of our mind where we have experiences or stories that are stored, which are probably across time and space. And that will also include ancestral lineage. We are a makeup of our ancestors as well. We carry it in our DNA. So yes, the unconscious mind holds the stories of everything, the experiences of everything. We cannot erase it. It's an archive, and we can go back to that if we need to.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. Lovely. Is there anyone in the group having any question about the mind and how do we reprogram our mind, conscious and unconscious mind? Kinneri is here. She's a psychotherapist, a coach, an hypnotherapist, regression therapist, and she's explaining how our mind is divided in different parts, mainly in two, conscious and unconscious, and how they are completely two different worlds, one with the critical thinking, another one more with emotions and linked with the body, the other one more with the willpower. And we are, learning that when we feel strong emotions, they might not be from the present. They might be triggers from the past and from our childhood. And she had explained how she does it. She uses the body. She has some techniques sometimes that she uses through the body. I don't know, breath or what techniques she uses to be able to release the trauma, to release the sadness, to release the stored emotions in our body. What would be your tips during these days, Kinneri? We have um, we have been dealing with anxiety during these COVID times and uncertainty. How does the mind? Which tips can you give us for our unconscious mind to calm down and for our emotions to be calm? What would you suggest we do?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Before I even speak about that, Clara, I just wanted to also add something that when we have emotions, like I said, they are energy in motion and they sit in our body, they also affect our body. So they give us physical illnesses, even something like cancer. Today, we see so much of cancer, we see kidney issues, we see depression, we see so many things. One of the contributors is emotions. And so I also deal with that. Now, when you're talking of really tips, one thing I would like to say when we are in a grip of emotional stress, for example, if we're anxious or we are fearful or upset, we forget to breathe. Our breathing becomes very shallow. We are almost hijacked through our thinking and feeling. So, one of the tips that I would give for anyone who's feeling emotional stress, take time out, even if it's 5 minutes or so. Breathe deeply. That will calm down. That will bring the body back to its own balance. Of course, we are not dealing with the emotions directly, but it's one thing that really helps because we forget completely. And breath, when we deprive our body of breath, our body will feel it. So it's a good idea to breathe. Take time out to breathe deeply, in through the nose and out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. And not shallow breathing. Take the breath right down into your stomach and then release it out through the mouth. It really, really helps. Probably doing meditation exercises, even if it's 5 to 10 minutes a day, that helps calm the mind. Because we cannot change the environment. What we can change is our feeling towards it. So that greatly helps.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, if there's an opportunity, therapy is the best.
Yeah. Therapy deals with the root cause. We take pills. This might just procrastinate our own through triggers. Therapy really helps. Wilfried says very powerful breathing deeply. Yes. So you've noticed that breathing deeply is very powerful. Dear James Wilfred from Kenya, do you have any questions? I know that you deal with a lot of youths and you have a baby yourself, and your job has a lot of, you've been helping rehabilitating youths, no? If you have any questions for Kinneri, she's here to reply. And anyone that is now with us, Oscar or Jen or Uma or Paula or Lois, yes, Barna. If you have any question about the mind before we wrap up, because Instagram Live cuts us up, but we still have few minutes to reply questions, or if you are curious, we have here a great therapist that removes the core issues very well. Kinneri does online therapy and also, but she has a practice in Kenya, and she does both online and presential practices with the people. And yes, thank you so much, Kinneri. I think there are no questions. This means that you've done a good job explaining.
Either you understood everything or understood nothing. So thank you so much. But yes, if there's any question, I'm very happy to ask, to answer.
Sorry, it's me again. How to cut the overthinking? How can we cut the overthinking? How can we get rid of the overthinking? And how to deal with the unknown? Okay, so I write them down. Unknown and overthinking.
Yes. This is a very real fear. People fear the unknown. And of course, there's a root cause for it. One thing that would really help is breathing, meditation. Yes. And of course, therapy is the key. So, overthinking, there's a reason why we overthink. Either we are feeling anxious, like we're not able to understand something. So, we will overthink and overthink. Below that, there is probably a sense of anxiety or fear. And that can only be overcome once we understand what we are feeling. So, go back to that feeling. Below that overthinking, what is happening? What's happening? Like, is there fear? Is there anxiety? Is there stress? Locate it in the body and then breathe. It will help. That is literally just sort of remedial, but of course, therapy is what helps.
Good. And how do you deal? So you have replied the overthinking pattern, right? We have two more questions. One is like, how do we deal with the unknown? Jen is asking, how do I deal with the unknown? And then we have another question of Paula that is asking, how I know many techniques that would calm me down, but I'm not able to to connect to this creative part or to all these techniques.
Okay, interesting question. She knows it, but she's not able to connect to it. That's what I understand. Any reason that she's not able to connect to it? Is she feeling something? Are you feeling something? Then I would need to know what exactly.
Paula, that's sometimes what I think that this might happen. It happens to the clients I work with. Is when we are stressed, we block completely our creative mind, which is the mind full of resources. And there is like a shield that comes up and we get into a blockage or a shock mode, which makes us be almost like useless or like we are paralyzed. And laziness becomes like a mechanism, right? Until it's not the thing. Well, there are so many strategies. Sometimes what you understand for meditation doesn't have to be meditation. It's just observing something, like focusing on an object, might be enough. You don't have to meditate. You can just focus on a cup of tea with a warm tea and try to think about where this water comes from, or the tea comes from, or the heat or the temperature, and just focus on objects and try to describe them in your mind. To know to things that they are solid in yourself, like this is a cup, it
Yeah.
has flowers.
In a way, diverting the mind, and in a way, focusing on something else, like bringing your senses back to something. That is very important. Also, sometimes we feel that we can't feel something in our body, like our presence is not there in our body. We're
Yeah.
not present with ourselves. So, locating where are we if we are not present here? It matters that we are present in our body.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very
Yeah.
important. And I would not like to forget what Jen asked. Jen asked, how do we deal with the unknown, with the not knowing?
Yeah.
Yes. What
And
would
that
you?
again, yeah. So that again is sort of what does the feeling of unknown invoke? What does it evoke or invoke? Is there a feeling attached to it? Like, say, I don't know the no, I don't know unknown. So how do I feel about it? Do I feel fear? Do I feel anxiety? We must understand what is it about the unknown that we're feeling and going back to it. That will give us a clue of where it's coming from and why there's something about the unknown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
So understanding it.
So basically, feeling and what's triggering this unknown, and getting
Yeah.
in touch with the feeling,
Yeah.
and observing the feeling and trying to discover where is it coming from. Of
Exactly.
course, there is that theory about the worry, that they say that 80% of the things that we worry about won't happen, 5% can happen, and the other 5 are probably just a distortion of our reality. No, that they are things that probably won. So that there is this statistic that says that worry usually it's better to focus on what we yes can control, allow things that we can control to be, and give space if we feel anxiety or we feel uncomfort or unease with that, to try, as Kinneri said, to bring it in the body and be with it, hold it.
Yeah.
Paula said, thank you, that was helpful, the strategy you shared before. So,
Yeah. And then also, Clara, you've shared a very interesting thing. So think about what we cannot worry. 80% of it is not in our control. So the fact could be something else, and how we perceive it is through our filter. So we distort the reality. The fact is something, and how we create our reality is based on our filter and where we come from. So really, yes, we can distort our mind through that. And so going back to where it came from, again, going back to the root cause of where we are, that will change. Because fact could be that it's raining outside. How do we understand it? What do we feel about it? We'll create our own reality.
mm, mhm.
Yeah.
And I think that being very aware of the things that we yes can control, like our words, our actions, our efforts, our behaviors, gives us more power on the things that we cannot control, which is other people's behaviors and other people's actions, right?
Yeah.
So by being in charge with ourselves, for example, being in charge is taking responsibility, and I'm not okay, I don't know how to feel, I seek for help. No, I embrace the emotion and I go back to the here and now, and then I seek for help, which could be very interesting. After
Completely.
in
We
two
can
minutes
control
we're going to
ourselves. We cannot
conclude.
control what's outside of us.
Yeah, totally. We will. I will give you the contact of Kinneri and the email in case you feel you would like to try a psychotherapy session with her and deal with these emotions that are not being able to, that are becoming anxiety, for example. And if you have any other question, I think we have been replying to you. The overthinking, the unknowing, and the not being able to tap the strategies that we know we have. If there is something else, we wait, and if not, we close for today. There are few minutes for the hour, and I don't want this to close at once. Thank you very much, Kinneri. It was very beautiful to exchange with you about the mind today and the view of the mind through clinical hypnosis. And it's a very powerful strategy. I have experienced it myself. And it's good to get rid of all patterns. As Kinneri said, the conscious mind is only 10% and the unconscious is 90, and inside the unconscious there are all the emotions, the body, the triggers from the past, and yeah. It's
Thank
been
you,
really
Clara.
lovely. Thank you so much, and we will post this video very soon on Instagram to allow people to check it after this hour there. That there is people having dinner with their families and all that. Thank you very much, Kinneri, and have a good day. Hopefully catch up soon when we are able to travel from Kampala to Nairobi.
Yeah, awesome. It would be so good to see you again. Thank you so much, Clara, for offering me this opportunity to share our this powerful reality, the power of the mind, how we are, who we are.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to
Yeah.
you, and they are thanking you, Kinneri. So have a good night, everyone that has been following us. Thank you for the questions. You've made it interactive. Thank you to you too, to Kenya and to Kampala and to Germany. Thank you. Hope to see you again. Yes, next week we are having another conversation, and we will be inviting different people and professionals speaking about different subjects, about the mind, about the power of the breath. We have last week was with Tazimia Clinton speaking about leadership and groups, facilitations of groups. Thank you, everyone. And the other one about anxiety management and with Dr. Amit and how the organs affects our emotions and stress levels. And next week, if I don't remember, but it's family constellation systems and how the group affects the individual with Marianne Bergit from the Netherlands. So next week will be family constellations, and the other one will be habits to keep ourselves healthy with a doctor from Venezuela, Derry. So that's lovely. We meet next week at the same time. And thank you very much for your attendance and for your questions and to keep it interactive. Good night.
Good night. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.